Thank you, Iris. Okay, let's move ahead with the presentation now. A few things to be kept in mind before we start the presentation. So, this presentation is the intellectual property of MindTribe, so no screenshots or no recording is allowed. And the purpose of this workshop is to educate and discuss about the different aspects of perfectionism and how to overcome some of the challenges that we face due to perfectionist tendencies. So, it will be about that. Then a few things to remember. So this is with regards to participation during the session. We will be having a few activities where you might need to share your responses. So either you can share it verbally, and if you want to share it verbally, please use the hand raise button, which is at the bottom here, and then your name will pop up and it will ask you to speak up. And if you want to respond in the chat box, that's up to you. You can just directly respond in the chat box. And also, we would request you to keep the cameras and mic off because there are many participants and it gets a little distracting if mics and cameras are on. So, thank you so much for keeping the mic and camera off till now. So, yeah, just give me a second. Right, we have an icebreaker activity now. So, I want all of your attention towards this activity for now. So, what I'll be doing is that in the upcoming slides, you'll be shown a few pictures or images, and you have to rate those images based on how comfortable you feel seeing them or how uncomfortable you feel seeing them. So, the scale is from 1 to 10. Let's say if you feel very much comfortable looking at that image, the most comfortable, then you will mark yourself 1 out of 10. And so the spectrum increases 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 10 is for the maximum discomfort. If that picture gives you, makes you feel a sense of discomfort, then you go towards 10, 9, or 8, depending on the level of your discomfort. So if you are comfortable seeing that image, go with the one, two, three, four, like that. And if you are uncomfortable or that creates a sense of discomfort, you can choose the rating based on that. The more it's near to 10, the more discomfort you are facing. So I hope I'm able to explain this. Does anyone want me to brief it again? I'll be happy to do that. Have you understood it, guys? Can you give a thumbs up if you're clear on this? Okay, great. Right. We have a few images. After I show each image, you can just quickly put your responses or your numbers in the chat box. So let's say I see a picture and it makes me very much uncomfortable and I want to rate it 8. So I'll just write in the chat box 8. So write your number in the chat box for each image. So let's move on to the first image. Yeah. So this is the first image. Based on your intuition and feeling, do not think about it on a scale of 1 to 10. How uncomfortable or comfortable do you feel seeing this? You can put all your responses in the chat box. All right, we have a few responses. Achal says 4, Khush says 5, Prasun says 3, there's 2, there's 5, Suhail and Ruhi, they say 6. Okay, so it's a little bit of discomforting. I can see that. Right. Okay, now let's move on to the next image. This one. Okay, we have responses 6, 8. Eight is a pretty uh, significant number. Prasun says six. Aishwarya asks, I just joined. What was the question? So, Aishwarya, I'm sharing a few images based on. So, the scale is from 1 to 10. And the more uncomfortable you feel seeing those pictures, you mark yourself accordingly. So, if I feel very much uncomfortable, I'll rate myself 8 or 9 out of 10. If I feel very comfortable, I'd rate myself 1, 2, or 3. So, the more the discomfort, the more the rating. Okay, thank you for that. We have a few responses. 7, 6, 6. Okay, for some people it was a little bit uncomfortable. I can see that. For some people it's average. Right. Let's move on to the next image. Now we have this one. Quickly, guys, just put it in the chat box. Chatra says 7. Sohel says 5. Prasun says 8. Right. There's 4, 1, 4, 1, 1. Some people feel very comfortable seeing this because there's a sense of symmetry here, right? Okay. Thank you for responding, guys. Now let's move on to the next image. This one. Okay, Ruhi says 2, Achal 4, Push 1. Yeah. Many people are comfortable seeing this one, right? It's average for some, right? Thanks for responding, guys. Moving on to the next image. This one. Just based on your intuition, do not think about it. Okay, Aishwarya says 3, Achal 6. Okay, a little bit. So I can see the discomfort has increased in this one, right? 7, 8, 6, right? I think we have the final image now. Yes, this one. What about this image? Okay, for okay, it even reached 9, 10. Okay, okay, that's significant here. Right. Moving to the next image, I think this is the final one. This one. Okay, it is also a little bit discomforting. I can see. Right. Okay, we have a mix responses. For some, it's pretty comfortable. For others, it's a little discomforting. Thanks for responding. Okay, so this is the final image. Yeah, this is a bun which is not cut into half. Okay, we got 10, 9, 10. It's pretty discomforting. You can see that. Right. So Hell says 9. Right. So, thank you everyone for your participation in this activity. So, I noticed that many of us felt a bit uncomfortable or disturbed while looking at those pictures, especially towards the end, because they are a little bit discomforting, and that feeling is normal. Okay, so because our minds naturally they want things to be orderly, they want things to be balanced and perfect. So when we see something that isn't symmetrical or seems out of order, it can make us feel uneasy. And those examples we have seen and discussed just now. And this is very similar to what happens in life when things don't go as planned or when something isn't just right. Sometimes we try hard to fix every little thing, or we feel upset if things are not perfect. This is a key part of what we call perfectionism. So perfectionism can make us strive for flawlessness, but it can also make us feel anxious, unhappy, or even stop us from trying new things because we are afraid of making mistakes. So today in this workshop, we will talk more about how perfectionism affects our lives and how we can learn to be kinder to ourselves, especially when things are not perfect. So we'll explore ways to manage these feelings, challenge those perfectionist thoughts, and become more comfortable with imperfection, just like some of the pictures we just saw. So you're not alone in this feeling discomfort with mess or mistakes. Let's discover together how to live, life with more flexibility, self-compassion, and acceptance of imperfections. So moving on. So these are the contents that we'll be touching upon. We just had the icebreaker activity. We'll talk about what perfectionism is, signs of perfectionism, impact it creates in one's life, Q&A, management of perfectionism, and its relationship with a few of the mental disorders, and finally the types of perfectionism. So these contents we will be talking about. Now we have another activity before we move on to the main content. So this activity is asking yourself this question: Am I a perfectionist? So for this one, again, what I'll do is that I will be reading out these statements. So we have about six statements, and there are four responses: true, somewhat true, false, and somewhat false. So I will be reading out each statement, and I want you guys to put it in the chat box. What response do you prefer for this? So, for example, if I read the first statement that nothing good comes from making mistake, and I believe that this is very true for me, and I believe this, so I'll say that it's true. So I'll be reading each statement, and I want you guys to put it in the chat box. What is your response to it? It could be true, it could be false, and for somewhat true and somewhat false, you can just mention in the chat box S true and S false. So I hope this activity is clear. Okay, even if you have any doubt, you can feel free to ask. All right. Okay, so your responses will be under these four options: true, false, S true, S false. So, yeah, let's begin this activity. So, the first statement is nothing good comes from making mistakes. Now, responses. Okay, we have false for many, somewhat false, false. Right. Okay, so it's false for most of the participants, somewhat false. Okay, that's great to hear. Now, somewhat false. Okay, for person, it's false. So the next statement is I must do things right the first time. Okay, even this stands false. Kush. Okay, so someone says they don't understand. So you don't understand the activity, you mean? So, okay, let me just explain. So let's say it is my belief. Let's say I am a perfectionist and I want things to be in order and to be timely and perfect. And this is my belief, and I believe that I must do things right the first time. Okay, so I should not make any mistake. I must do things right. So this is the belief that I come from. This is what I believe about myself. So if this stands 100% true for me, I will put my response as true. If this is totally false for me, I'll put false as a response, and somewhat true and somewhat false based on your association to this particular statement. So that's what we are all responding here. So for the second statement, I must do things right the first time. Most of the people have okay put false. For Ruhi, it's true, somewhat true. Thank you for sharing that. For Kush, yes, it's false. Okay. Now, moving on to the third statement, which is I must do everything well, not just the things I know I'm good at. everything should be perfect, not just my things, but everything that I do has to be perfect, must be perfect. Okay, for Sohail, it's true. Prosun false. Aishwarya says somewhat false. Somewhat false. Right. Vanna says somewhat true. Rohit says somewhat true. So, guys, this is a reflective activity that gives you an insight about yourself. Because only when we get to know about ourselves, we can start to work on it. So these things will help you get an insight into yourself, right? So it's somewhat true for some people, right? And I really appreciate you guys responding to it. uh, Matters a lot in a workshop. So right, moving on to the next one. So we have three other statements as well, right? So reading out the first one here: if I cannot do something perfectly, then there is no point in even trying. If I can't finish it perfectly, I will not even try it. I will not even attempt it. Right. So it stands somewhat true for most of the participants. It's false for someone else. Right. Somewhat true. Somewhat true is there. Right. Somewhat true. Okay. Thank you for that. Now the second last statement is: I rarely give myself credit when I do well, because there's always something more I could do. So even if for the thing that I have done, I will not give myself much of the credit, because I there is always room for improvement, I believe. Right. So it stand false, somewhat false, false, somewhat false, false. Right. Now, last statement, guys. So sometimes I'm so concerned about getting one task done perfectly that I don't have time to complete the rest of my work. I can see it stands true for many people here, because we do need that sense of accomplishment after completing certain tasks. We cannot leave it in between, so it's understandable and relatable. Right. Thank you so much for responding, guys. So this was the activity. So this is just a self-reflective thing for you to ponder over things like: how much do you prefer perfection? If it's true for most of the statements, that means you do prefer it. If it's somewhat true, then that means that you somewhat have the tendency. But even if somewhat true, it kind of works, it's not that worrisome. But we'll throughout the presentation, we'll look at a lot more things with which you can get an idea about yourself, where you stand. So this was just a temporary screening thing, that's just for your idea and insight. I hope this activity was helpful. Now let's move on to the next part. Okay, so this is the last activity. It's a very short one. So we just discussed, about the images that makes you uncomfortable, about which statement stands true for you. So now I want you to think about these dimensions of your life: work, study, housework or cleaning, close relationships, organizing and ordering things, eating, weight, shape, grooming, personal hygiene, sport, and health or fitness. So, out of these areas or dimensions, what do you think, just from your experience, what do you think? Where do you feel that you are the most perfectionist? It's not that you have to be uh, a total perfectionist, but even if you talk about comparatively, even if you're not a perfectionist, but if you compare all these dimensions, what is that one dimension where you strive to be a perfectionist? So out of these options, you can just put it in the chat box, or if you want to speak about it, you can speak about it. Let's see some responses here. Okay, Kanvi says study. Yes, that makes sense. Aishwarya says work, right? Someone says study, sometimes cleaning. Yes, even cleaning is something I can relate to a little bit. Ruhi says all except sport. Right, that's thank you so much for sharing that, Ruhi, and thank you so much for being honest about it. Prosun says close relationship. Right. Chatra says work, housework, cleaning, and personal hygiene. Vandana says organizing and ordering things. And Sohail says work, study, sport. Right. So thank you so much for responding, guys. Again, this is another activity that makes you, have give an insight about yourself and to think for oneself, where do we stand, in which domains do we need to improve. So we are just looking in those domains. Kush says housework and personal hygiene. Yes. Thank you so much for responding, guys. Now we'll move on to the presentation. So we have created a pretty good foundation before moving on to the presentation. Let's jump onto it. Right. So, coming to the main question, what actually is perfectionism? So, perfectionism is the constant need to be flawless or achieve extremely high standards in everything that you do. So, people who struggle with perfectionism, they often feel unhappy or dissatisfied if things are not done perfectly, even when what they have done is actually good enough. But the dissatisfaction is always there. So this is what we broadly mean when we say when we talk about perfectionism. Now let's look at perfectionism through different signs of perfectionism. Like, how does it manifest? In what ways does it show up? Yeah. So the first sign is flaw phobia. Uh, Imagine feeling super uneasy when you spot the tiniest mistake, like a spelling error or a crooked picture frame. For example, in the beginning activity, there was an image of the Kit Kat chocolate that was eaten in such a way that their block symmetry was totally messed up, and it can create a sense of discomfort. So that was a broad thing that it makes sense if you get discomforted by seeing that Kit Kat. But if you feel super uneasy whenever you spot even the tiniest of the mistake, like a spelling error or just a picture frame that is not symmetrical. So for someone with perfectionism, these little flaws can feel huge and scary. So they spend a lot of energy trying to fix or avoid anything that is imperfect, because mistakes makes them anxious. Mistakes gives them a sense of discomfort in many ways. So some people can experience it through anxiety, some people can experience it through OCD, and in the later section we'll be talking about how it relates to other mental health disorders as well. So, flaw phobia is basically how it manifests. The perfectionism manifests as flaw phobia, where even the tiniest of the flaw creates discomforting. A next major sign is unrealistic uh, standards. Right. So, for example, let's say I'm a mediocre student at school. Something happened. Let's say my teachers or parents, they grilled me over the fact that I need to perform better in school. So let's say my average marks has been around like 55-60%, but then suddenly I increase my standard that in order to make people happier around me, I will create a target of 90% marks, which is a highly unrealistic standard for myself. And if I set that standard for myself, I have to work hard for it and work in ways that are not natural to me, that are not inherently motivating to me. they are just coming from an external source. So setting those unrealistic standards is one of the major signs that we can found in people with perfectionist tendencies. Then there is approval addiction. So sometimes people with perfectionist tendency really need others to say that, really need others to appreciate things that they did, like for example saying things like you did great or this is perfect. And if they do not get that praise, they worry that they are not good enough, and they often depend on compliments or reassurance from other people to feel okay about themselves. So this is also a sign through which perfectionism can uh, can be understood. Now moving on to the next sign, which is compulsiveness. So have you ever triple checked something, like lighting switches, or making sure a dish is spotless, or have you locked the door or not? So we can all relate to that, right? So compulsiveness is when someone feels that they must do things over and over until it feels just right. And this might mean redoing tasks, organizing obsessively, or spending lots of time on details that most people wouldn't even notice. Only you are going to notice that. So that compulsiveness is about making sure that things are the way you want them to be. Even the tiniest of the flaws should be eradicated. So compulsiveness is how perfectionism manifests. One of the ways. Then there is result rigidity. So this is when only a perfect outcome is acceptable. If things turn out good but not flawless, it feels like a failure. For example, after cooking a meal that tastes just fine, a perfectionist might focus only on a slightest mistake rather than enjoy their effort. So anything less than perfect doesn't seem worth celebrating. It has to be perfect. Only this, then it will be celebrated. I can see people relating in the chat box. Thank you for responding. Thank you for sharing with us. Right. And I think the final sign through which it can manifest is rumination riptide. So sometimes people get stuck replaying mistakes in their minds, thinking about what went wrong and what they could have done differently. So it's really hard to just move on. And this endless mental feedback loop, it creates lots of stress and takes away joy from achievements. So those mistakes, when you think about those mistakes and you keep playing them on repeat in order to escape from future mistakes, that kills your present joy, rather than if you are just focused on a goal that you have to be good at, that you have to be perfect at, because you have, if you want to be perfect at it, you have to put all of your resources into thinking about it. So right. Sri Lakshmi says that's good. That's not perfectionism, I think. Okay, which part are you talking about? The rumination riptide? I mean, see, for certain extent, it is good. Let's say I did something, I did an activity, and there were a few flaws that I need to inculcate from future. That's fine. If I just look at those flaws and remind myself, okay, I need to make it better the next time, that's fine. That's natural. That's self improvement. But if I feel that sense of discomfort, like you saw those images and you felt that discomfort, if that discomfort is constantly there and and I'm responding to that discomfort, then it is a part of rumination riptide and eventually a part of perfectionism. But it's it's like a spectrum, perfectionism. Right. Thank you. Okay. We just discussed the signs that can manifest as perfectionism. So do we have anything to ask till this point, till the science point, or things clear? Do you want to clarify anything or share your experience? If it's clear, you can just give a thumbs up and we'll move ahead. All right, let's move on with the presentation. Right, so we have this short ad break here with us, just like on YouTube, it's free. So just enjoy this presentation. Right, so what is one on one counseling? So, one on one counseling is a personalized, confidential session between a client and a trained therapist. It helps you gain insight into your thoughts, behaviors, emotions. It addresses specific issues such as anxiety, stress, or relationship or interpersonal issues. And finally, it helps you work towards personal and professional goals in with the support of a professional counselor. Then, when it comes to counseling, there are a few misconceptions related to it, that it is only for those who are sick or those who really need help. However, counseling is for anyone who wants to better their current version. It could be betterment of interpersonal relationship, acquiring more friends, academic success, or career advancement, or anything that is associated with self improvement. Then, why choose a MindTribe counseling? So, we have a team of highly trained counselors. Our team consists of experienced and skilled therapists. We have affordable charges from it ranges from 800 to 2400 depending on the seniority of the counselor. And you can avail the first session for only the amount of 449. So, this is just for the first session. Post that, usual charges apply. And then we also have affordable packages. So once you're comfortable, you can invest in our budget friendly counseling packages. Right. So if there are any questions related to therapy that we just discussed during this ad break, you can put it in the chat box. Our co host will take it up. Uh, and then we'll just, if you have any question, you can just feel free to put it in the chat box. And we'll just move on with the presentation now. Right. So we just discussed the signs that could manifest as perfectionism. Now let's look at the impact of perfectionism on one's life. So impacts have been divided into four major domains. Let's talk about those four domains. So the first domain here is strained relationship. Uh, when someone is a perfectionist, they often expect everyone around them to meet very high standards as well. For example, a perfectionist parent might want their child to get top grades all the time and can get upset or disappointed if the child doesn't meet those expectations. So this kind of pressure, it can cause arguments or distance because others may feel judged, or they feel like they can never do enough, and it can hurt the closeness and warmth in relationship. So, when it comes to, be it parent or child relationship, be it interpersonal romantic relationship, be it relationship with friends, relationship with colleagues, so your expectation from others increase when you are more in touch with your perfectionist tendencies. You want, uh, you set those standards for others as well, and that results in strained relationship at times. So this is the first domain that's affected. uh, right. And the next domain is increased vulnerability. So perfectionists feel very sensitive when things don't go their way or when they get criticized. Imagine a coworker who keeps worrying about every little mistake they made during a presentation. They might feel like a failure even if the presentation overall was good. So this constant fear of failing or being judged, it makes them more anxious, stressed, and they get easily upset. So their sensitivity increased when it comes to mistake. So whenever they make mistake, they feel vulnerable, they feel more sensitive towards their mistake, or when things don't go their way, or when they are criticized, basically when they get to know that it was not perfect, it was not 100%, it was just 99%. So that makes them sensitive towards their mistakes. Now, the third major domain where it impacts is your physical health. So, constant stress from trying to be perfect can affect the body as well. For example, a student who insists on studying late every night until they get the perfect grade might start feeling tired all the time, or get headaches or any other physical complication. So, stress can also cause trouble sleeping and make people feel weak or unwell. And over time, this kind of pressure can hurt your overall health. So, your physical health is affected because in order to be perfect, you have to gather all of your body's resources, mental resources, physical resources. You have to be hard on yourself, and again, that results in physical or mental complications. And then the final domain that we're going to talk about is where it impacts is decreased productivity. Uh, so this statement is a little bit dilemmatic because perfectionism is mostly related to increased productivity. But let's talk about this one. So, because perfectionists want everything to be perfect, they may spend too much time trying to get every detail exactly right. For example, someone might keep revising a report or going over an email many times, which means they can take much longer to finish tasks. So sometimes they even avoid, starting tasks because they are afraid that they won't do it perfectly, and this slows down progress and can lead to less work getting done because there is more focus on making the finishing of the work so perfect, so good, flawless, that all of your resources are spent into that and you waste your time in that and not able to dedicate that time to something else that you could have. So as a result, your productivity is decreased. So these are the four domains where how perfectionism impacts these domains. We just discussed about it. Any doubt till this part? Have you? Do you want to clarify anything when it comes to the impact of perfectionism? Sri Lakshmi says, I'm trying to control it nowadays, big time, very difficult though. Yeah, it can feel a little bit difficult if you're trying to do it on your own. That's why, even if you feel like you can have book a session with us and see how that works out for you. Right. Then moving on to the next part, if this one is clear. So let's talk about the types of perfectionists. So it was forwarded by Dr. Tal Ben Shahar. So he proposed two types of perfectionism: adaptive perfectionism and maladaptive perfectionism. So the adaptive perfectionism is the healthy kind. It is when someone sets high goals but is still flexible and kind to themselves. For example, a student wants to get good grades, but is okay if they get a B instead of an A because they know they did their best. So, this kind of perfectionism motivates growth, it motivates learning and feels satisfying. So, this is what Ben Shahar says is adaptive perfectionism, where, uh, you know, even though your goals are high, but still they are flexible and you are kind to yourself. You know that you have done your best, but the result is not under your control. But you have done your best, and that's what matters. So, this is a part of adaptive perfectionism. However, basically, in this presentation, in this session, and especially in the field of mental health, when we talk about perfectionism, we're mostly talking about maladaptive one, because we only talk about perfectionism when it comes to a point that it starts to create discomfort in your life. Since adaptive perfectionism doesn't create discomfort in your life, mental health field is not much concerned about it. So we are mostly concerned about maladaptive perfectionism. So again, it is the maladaptive one is the unhealthy kind, and it is one when someone feels like nothing is good enough, unless it's perfect. Example would be if a student gets a B and feels like that they completely failed or they are worthless, they might beat themselves up and with a lot and feel anxious or sad all the time. This kind makes people avoid new challenges because they fear failure, and that fear of failure can cause a lot of stress. And most of what we are talking today is maladaptive perfectionism. uh, Now let's understand it a bit more clearly, right? So when we talk about healthy perfectionist, what they do is that, okay, so first of all, they set goals. The goals are high, but they are not unrealistic. So they challenge themselves by setting a high goal uh, and standard, and then if they fail, so after they fail, what they do is that they learn from the failure and stays engaged in the activity. They inculcate, just like someone put it in the chat box, like this is not perfectionism. So you were talking about healthy perfectionism only. That this is something that you did something, you have a goal in mind, you tried your best. There are a few mistakes. You accept those mistakes without much discomfort, and then inculcate those mistakes. It's just a technical thing. It doesn't have to be concerned with your psychological discomfort. So that is a part of healthy perfectionist. Now, when it comes to maladaptive perfectionistic tendencies, firstly, they set unrealistic goals or extremely unachievable things. And when they fail, and obviously, if you set too much of an unrealistic goal, you are more bound to fail. And when you fail, the maladaptive perfectionist either, it happens in two ways. Either they become obsessed with that activity, they become obsessed with that goal, and they increase their effort to reach that point of perfectionism. Either they do this, or they do the exact opposite, which is they avoid activity altogether. They leave it, like it's like all or none tendency, that if you are doing it, you are doing it fully, and if you're not, then you're just not even touching it. So that is like swinging like a pendulum from one end of the perfectionism to the other end, where there is no perfectionism because you are avoiding the activity altogether. So this is how we can understand the healthy versus maladaptive perfectionist. So is there any clarification or doubt till this part? If it is clear, you can give a thumbs up, and if it's relatable to you as well, you can give a thumbs up. We'll move on. Right. I hope this one is clear. Now moving on to the next part. So now we'll be talking a little bit about what is the relationship of perfectionism with a few of the mental health disorder that we uh, that are a little bit common, right? So we'll start with just a second. Okay, we'll start with OCD versus perfectionism. So in OCD, which is obsessive and compulsive disorder, uh, where you are obsessed with particular thoughts, and there is a compulsiveness to behave certain ritual in order to feel comfortable. So OCD has basically two components: the thought component and the behavior component. And the thought component is obsession, the behavior component is known as compulsion. And these obsessions and compulsions are out of control. But when it comes to perfectionism, it's more of a personality disposition. Because if you are a perfectionist, you will try to, put that lens in every domain where you go. So in the beginning, we did an activity where I mentioned lots of life domains and asked which domain do you think you are more of a perfectionist at. I could see many of the people have put more than one domain, because it happens that when you develop a personality that wants to see everything in a perfect manner, it becomes a part of your personality. Then, right. When it comes to OCD, there is significant impairment in daily functioning because obsessions in the uh, form of thought and compulsion in the form of behavior, they interfere in your day-to-day activities and making your life difficult and making it hard for you to reach your desired goal or a better future. And with perfectionism, it could be impairing. It's not that it is fully impairing, but again, since I said that it is kind of a spectrum, so nothing black and white or nothing certain can be said about it. So it could be impairing based on how much of perfectionist tendency you carry. If it is too much, then it could be impairing your day-to-day life. If it is not too much, just a little bit, it could be healthy perfectionism, it won't impair anything. So that is there. Then OCD is rooted from an over inflated sense of responsibility, right? That you feel responsible to perform certain compulsion, to think about certain things, and those things are not under your control. So there is again a sense of responsibility from your end to perform those compulsions. However, this is what OCD is driven by. It is driven by a sense of responsibility. However, perfectionism, it is driven by mostly the fear of failure, because I don't want to fail and I want to achieve everything in, you know complete everything in its perfect uh, you know in a perfect form. So that is, research says that it's mostly driven by fear of failure, because you do not want to fail. Then final point is, okay, it's an example. So example, washing hands for 100 times till they become red and soiled. So again, it is a part of compulsion where you feel like you have to do certain things which are out of your control, and unless you do them, you feel great sense of discomfort. So that is something of an example here. And then with perfectionism, it could be someone washing their hands without fail before every meal. So again, when a perfectionist is washing hand, he's not washing it just as a compulsion, but as something that is needed to have before a meal. Let's say they are uh, they care too much about, not too much, but even if they care about hygiene, you will wash your hand before every meal. So that is not OCD, that is perfectionism. That washing hand is because that is a utilitarian process. You are washing your hand for some purpose, you're not just washing it just for the sake of washing it. So this is how you can look at the comparison between OCD and perfectionism, right? Yes, someone raised a hand. Yes, Sri Lakshmi, please go ahead.
Excuse me. So now discuss about OCD and healthy perfectionism. Comparison. Healthy perfectionism and OCD. Right?
Uh, Sri Lakshmi, your voice is very, it's not audible for me. If
Sir, can you hear it?
Yes, yes, it's
Sir,
clear now.
sir, now sir discuss OCD versus healthy perfectionism, right?
Sorry.
Can you hear now, sir?
Yes, it's clear. Please go ahead.
Sir, now sir discussed about OCD and healthy perfectionism, right? Not maladaptive, right?
Uh, well,
Or in
in this,
general, or perfectionism in
in
general.
general, yes, yes, it is in general,
Oh,
because
okay.
again,
Oh.
perfectionism is a tendency. You might start with the healthiest perfectionism, okay? Your starting
Hmm.
could be great, but then it can become an addiction itself. So
Yes,
that
ma'am.
is the issue.
Sir, can I ask a doubt? Sir, I had this issue due to hyper independence due to trauma. I had this habit of doing everything. Then only I will be happy. Then nowadays, when I realized I am becoming so perfectionist, and maybe OCD is also kicking in, I started to delegate it to people. Like for my main thing is about cleaning my room. So when it is up to about to be clean, I ask the help of my mother. Usually I don't do that because she's so old. But because this perfectionist tendency is so strong, I started to delegate and ask help from her. So like not delegate, ask help from her, and she does that. But still, sir, sometimes I'm like over obsessing. Even if she cleans for something for me, I will be over obsessing over the cleanliness, and maybe I will clean again. Not like too much, but it is still there. So, sir, how can we control? Like if some thing is misplaced, then we are like, oh, then I will be like, oh, it is gone. I will be like, it is gone forever. So how can we control? I think it's not too much than here. So I am not asking for a personal session. So still, can you give some tips on how to not overthink over things to be gone out of somewhere like that? How can we control that overthinking?
Mhm. Right. Thank you for asking that. That's a very important question. So yeah, I can see, discomfort can be created when you see things which are not at their right place. Even the tiniest of things, if they are imperfect, it creates discomfort. And rather than asking how to remove that discomfort or how to get rid of that, it's important to see with which lens you are. So all of us have a worldview, and we have certain bunch of beliefs. Those beliefs act as a lens for us, and through that lens we see the world. Let's say you have the fear of failure, that I should not fail at everything, I should excel at everything. So that belief, when it internalizes, let's say that belief is totally helpful in your work and professional life, but then the belief doesn't know that I am needed only in your work or professional life. Belief is a belief. It will stay with you for 24/7. So even if you are out of your work or professional life, in daily life, you are going to see things in that manner, and you will feel discomfort if they are not the way you wanted them to be. Because in other domains of the life, things are where you wanted them to be, but in some domains, it is not. So we have to learn to uh, basically see this issue and understand how our beliefs create reality. And whenever you see this happening, ask yourself, why am I feeling this? So then you'll get to know, the more you observe whenever this happens, the more you'll get to see how you respond to it. And when you see how you respond to it, you would directly disconnect from it, because you become the seer of it, you don't become the performer of it. So directly you become disassociated with it, and when you disassociate, it becomes easy for you to see the problem from a distance, like a third eye. A third person is watching the incident. So yeah, don't try too much to get rid of it, just look at it. The more you look at it and be aware of it, it will go, because it will know that you are not following its the thread that it's throwing at you, you are just looking at the thread. So I hope that was helpful for you.
So can you hear me? So can you hear
Yes.
me? So
Yes.
one more thing, sir. When I'm control, and now it's about a big control. I have gained more control over it. So I am allowing my mother to clean. Otherwise, I was like nobody should clean. I should only clean. I had those
Yes.
things. But now, so I asked my mother. So then afterwards, like it's like now I'm able to control. But the thing is, if I was earlier, I was like, if I didn't clean some two spaces in my room, I will be very irritated. And like some example, if my wardrobe is not clean, I think no cleanliness is there. Like only one corner will be unclean, but I will be like obsessing. Oh, wardrobe is not clean. So my bed is. I curse everything I have cleaned. So now I have control. Yesterday I was taking a small step. At least I cleaned one space extra doing cleaning. So I was like happy. So I do that small steps as you guys always advise us. So now I am gaining slow control over it. So, sir, you are telling like we should observe and let go those thoughts, right? Let
Right, right.
go of
And
that thing,
also,
right?
exactly. First of all, congratulations that you're trying your best to, make things better for yourself, and it's working good. And also, we'll be discussing some techniques towards the end that would help you, deal with perfectionism. So we have a few uh, things related to that, so that will also be helping you out. So,
Thank
right,
you, sir.
just move on with the presentation now. Okay, let's talk a little about how it relates to anxiety. So, perfectionism itself can be a symptom of anxiety. The fear and anxiety are motivating the behavior. Okay, so the anxious perfectionist, for example, can make things worse by ruminating about past mistakes that have been made, by worrying about the possibility of future mistakes. So we also discussed rumination back in the presentation. So it could be a symptom of anxiety as well. And for some people, perfectionism may reflect an attempt to control feelings of anxiety and avoid future situations that can add to existing levels of emotional arousal. So this is how perfectionism can relate to anxiety as well, and they both are uh, they can be seen together because both fuel each other. Now, moving on to the next disorder, which is uh, depression and perfectionism. So I would say that perfectionism and depression sometimes they go hand in hand, and this happens because perfectionists tend to have very rigid, and fixed ways of thinking. They set high standards for themselves and link their self worth closely to their achievements. For example, if a perfectionist fails to meet one of their goals perfectly, they may feel like they are a total failure. And this kind of thinking does not allow for small mistakes or setbacks. Instead, it creates a negative self talk where the person constantly criticizes themselves and, focuses only on what went wrong. And as a result of it, these harsh self judgment they become a habit, and over time this habit can increase the you know feelings of sadness. It can increase the feelings of hopelessness and low self esteem, and those things are a key symptom of depression. So to put it very simply, perfectionism creates a mental trap where the person feels that they must be perfect in order to feel okay. When they cannot be perfect, it deepens their feeling of disappointment and sadness, and making depression more likely in this scenario. So, understanding this connection helps us to see why learning to accept imperfection and being kinder to ourselves is so important to improving mental health. Now, we have a final disorder to look at, which is eating disorder and how perfectionism is related to that. So, when we okay so perfectionism plays a big role in many eating disorder. So people who struggle with eating problems often have very strict rules about what and how much they eat. For example, they might say to themselves that I'm only allowed to eat certain foods, or I must never eat snacks or sweets. These strict food rules can make their lives very stressful. So there are very much strict food rules. So another one is excessive exercising. So beside food rules, perfectionists with eating disorder might exercise excessively. They feel like they have to work out a lot to make up for eating wrong or not meeting their body goals. This need to control exercise is often linked to perfectionistic mindset, which is common in both perfectionism and eating disorder. Then another important point is self criticism. So, when someone with an eating disorder looks in the mirror, thinks about their eating, they may be very harsh and critical of themselves. They might think things like, I'm never slim enough, or I'm not good because I didn't stick to my diet perfectly. And finally, there is a black and white thinking. So perfectionists also often see things in black and white terms, which means everything is either perfect or a total failure, nothing in between. For example, if they eat one cookie, they might feel like they have completely messed up and give up on their eating plan for the day. So this all or nothing thinking makes it very hard to recover or accept progress over time. And so yeah, so these were the pointers connecting eating disorder and perfectionism, and understanding this connection uh, is important because it shows why learning to be flexible, learning to be kind to oneself, and accepting imperfection can be key parts of healing. So this So here we just discussed how it relates to few of the mental health disorders. And now this is the final section where we will be talking about the management of perfectionism. And yes, management of maladaptive perfectionism. When it gets to a point that it starts affecting your life in a negative manner. Okay, so we'll go step by step. So the first step is to pick one identified area. Remember in the beginning we did in the icebreaker activity, we asked you to identify a few of the domains where you think you have perfectionist tendencies. So in those domains, for example, let's pick any one of the domain that you think is needs to be looked at. So start by choosing one specific part of your life where perfectionism is causing problems. It could be anything like your work, studies, cleaning habits, or relationship. So focusing on one single area makes it easier to notice and work on changes without the feeling of overwhelmingness. So choose one area. Do not be overwhelmed by the fact that I have many areas to work on. Just choose one area where you think you need certain intervention. Be sure about that area. Then the next one is adjust unhelpful rules and assumption. So notice the strict rules or beliefs that you hold that feed your perfectionism. For example, you might think, if I don't leave early, I'll be late and people will think badly of me. So, challenge these automatic beliefs by testing out new, more flexible ideas like leaving just 15 minutes before you actually need to, and see how it goes. So, you have your personal rules about how things have to be, like that I have to leave early, otherwise people will think badly of me. So how can you challenge these automatic beliefs is by testing new and flexible ideas, that leaving not too early, not too soon from home for the office, but only like 15 minutes before you actually need to, and just seeing how it goes. So in ground test your belief by a contrasting belief, that let's say I leave for office 30 minutes earlier, so now I leave 15 minutes earlier. So you can start from there. So again, unhelpful, when you talk about unhelpful rules or assumption, they are mostly around the fact that my job is not done until it's perfect. And lastly, not lastly, but just the third pointer, that be open to change. Again, changing perfectionist habits takes time and patience. So be willing to try things differently, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. Accept that mistakes and imperfections are part of learning and growing. And this openness helps reduce anxiety and gradually frees you from harsh self judgments or demands that you uh, put on yourself. So, by focusing on these steps, you start to basically weaken the grip of perfectionism by questioning old thoughts and practicing new, healthier habits that bring balance and peace. Okay, so the next one is to set appropriate standards. Okay, so there are a few domains like study, cleaning, grooming, and I want you guys to respond on it. So the first is an example. So let's say we're talking about the area of study. So again, it could be understood as a distinction between healthy versus unhealthy perfectionism. But anyway, we will move on from the high standard to a healthy standard. So the first example of moving on from a high to a healthy standard is, so the high standard is in study, that I must always get a distinction or higher. So this is a high standard that the person has set for themselves. Then a healthy standard would be, I give my best given the situation and my preparation. So the person's self worth is not dependent on the result. Their self worth is dependent on the effort that they have put on, and they can only control their effort and not the result. So their self worth being tied to their effort is a healthy thing, but their self worth being tied to distinction or being tied to a particular standpoint, that could be called as high standard, which might not prove healthy, because even if you do your best, distinction is not always guaranteed. So based on this example, I want you guys to think about the second domain, which is cleaning. So the high standard here is that the person thinks that the kitchen must be spotless and clean, right? So just think about it, guys. What could be a healthy standard that you can set in the form of a statement? So the high standard is the kitchen must be spotless and clean. So based on what we just discussed, please feel free to unmute yourself or put it in the chat box. What would be a potentially healthy standard you can put in this part? Okay, Sri Lakshmi says, I cleaned one extra thing of my room yesterday, like study table. I'm so happy and grateful. Yes, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Sri Lakshmi. Also, you want to speak something?
Instead of telling like kitchen must be spotless and clean. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can.
Can you hear? Instead of telling like that, maybe one extra thing, maybe the fridge or maybe the cupboard extra we can clean in a day, and then we can do the usual cleaning and tell it's fine, perfect the way it is. It will not be spotless and clean every corner. Maybe we can do one extra thing. Yesterday I tried that and succeeded. Maybe becoming happy over cleaning.
Right, right. That would be part of healthy standards. So thank you so much for sharing that. Would anyone else also like to share their experience? What you think could be a healthy standard? Sukamal Kaur says, given my time constraint schedule, I've kept the kitchen as clean as I can, and that counts. Yes. So again, we can see the self worth is here is connected to the your efforts and not on the end result. Right. Great. Now, final one is grooming. So again, the high standard is I must always look immaculate. So, what do you think, guys, would be a healthy standard for this one? You can take your time thinking about it.
So I can be flawless. I can be accepted the way I am. And also the people who really love me will accept me the way I am. I should not, every day I need not be that dreamy person for everyone to like me.
Right, right. That would be a realistic standard that would not fuel the tendencies of perfectionism. So, thank you for responding on that. Right, we'll move on to the next part, which is reducing the perfectionist behavior. So, how can we do that? Let's talk about it briefly. So, first, identify the beliefs. Beliefs could be, as I told, that beliefs act as a lens through which you tend to see the whole world. Uh, for example, if I don't leave so early, I would arrive late and it would be terrible and they would think badly of me. So whenever these beliefs kick in, so whenever these things happens and you are internally motivated to behave in a certain way, like reaching somewhere way before the time so that you avoid being late. So whenever these behavior occur, all before these behavior there are always uh, thought process. Thoughts are always trying to push you towards that behavior, and those thoughts are arising from your beliefs. So the first step is to identify those beliefs whenever they kick in. And by belief I mean just identify the thoughts that push you towards a particular behavior, because the possibility is that those thoughts, behind those thoughts there are belief. So first you focus on thought, and that will When you look at your thoughts and you think about it, and you know see a summary of it, you will realize from which belief system are they coming from. So identifying beliefs is important, and that can be done through uh, keeping a check on thoughts that make you behave in a particular manner. Then what you can do is then you can try behavioral experiments. Like I mentioned, how if I leave 30 minutes early for work, I'll just leave 15 minutes before I need to, and see if I arrive on time. So just give it a test run. Like even if I'm late for one day, it does not matter. No one will be focusing on it other than me. So try those behavioral experiments, because those experiments really rewire your brain in a different manner. Again, that rewiring doesn't happen in the first go. It does take time, but at least you have to get introduced to that new perspective, or new way of thinking or new way of doing. Just put a step in that, first step in that pond is how, is what behavioral experiments are about. Then finally, again, these things are also taken care of in a psychotherapy session. So even if these things are something that you're not able to do on your own, you can obviously consult a therapist for that, a professional for that, which will make your job a little bit easier to identify those beliefs and to try out the behavioral experiments. Then challenging perfectionist thinking. So this is something that we can do. So there is this thing called thought record. So thought record is a simple but very effective tool where you can write down your perfectionist thoughts as they happen. For example, if you catch yourself thinking, if I don't do this perfectly, I'm a failure, then write it down. Then next to it, write any evidence for or against that thought. So what this does is that it helps you bring awareness and balance to your thinking. So this is how you create a thought record. Simply write down the thought as they come, and then write evidence for or against it. And through thought record, these are a few components of thought record. The first is realistic thinking. So perfectionist thinking often jumps to extremes. So by extreme, I mean, if you want to do it, either you'll do it 100% or you will not even start it. So you are always lingering around extremes. And to challenge this, practice thinking in more realistic terms. Instead of I must never make mistakes, remind yourself everyone makes mistakes sometimes, and I can learn from those mistakes. So this shift reduces pressure and self-criticism. Then there is perspective taking here. So you take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Ask yourself, will this matter a year from now? Or is this the most important thing in my life? Often, what feels urgent or disastrous now is less significant with some distance if you look at it from a distance. So, this helps ease the intensity of perfectionistic worries. So, again, a realistic thinking and perspective taking, which you get through, maintaining a thought record, they help you look at the bigger picture, because you create a distance. When you create a distance, because of the distance, you shift your identity towards the other end of the distance, the one who is looking at the problems. So that identity is something which has to get stronger, and it helps you look at the bigger picture in a better way. And then finally, compromising. So again, when you are creating the thought record, compromising is really important. It helps you learn to compromise, meaning that you accept the good enough instead of the perfect. For example, maybe your work report is not flawless but still communicates the necessary information. Allowing for compromise reduces stress, and it lets you move forward without being stuck in an endless refining. So thought record is something that helps you with all these four things. It helps you get develop more of a realistic thinking. You are better able to take perspectives in. Then it helps you look at the bigger picture from the distance, and finally it helps you make compromise in a healthy manner to meet at the middle point of perfectionism and making a deal with it that is healthy for you. So, right. So these things they will help you weaken the rigid and stressful patterns and replace them with more kinder, balanced, and more flexible ways of viewing yourself and situation. It takes practice, but it can greatly improve mental being. Again, patience is really important when it comes to this. Right. And finally, this is the final slide, and we'll be wrapping up after this. So, this is re-evaluating perfectionist mindset. So, this is a sheet that you can maintain for yourself in order to, evaluate your perfectionist mindset. So, it has three columns. The first column is early warning signs or triggers. The second column is healthy behavior, and the final column is healthy thoughts. So let's say, let me talk about a example of a perfectionistic trigger. So someone is a perfectionist and they want to, they spend too much time at the office making sure everything that they do is perfect. And because of that, it takes them time and that's why they spend so much time at the office. So this can become a trigger or the warning sign. So this is the situation that they're in. So the situation is that I stayed at the office till 9 p.m. last night. Right. Again, this is not a healthy behavior because it creates an imbalance in your work life balance. So, a healthy behavior would be I need to go home at a reasonable time. So, that was the unhealthy behavior, which was the warning sign. So, replace that with a healthy behavior, which is I need to go home at a reasonable time, and then introduce a healthy thought as well. So this one, so there is healthy behavior and there is healthy thought. So when we talk about triggers, we'll look at the trigger. We will modify the trigger into healthy behavior and into healthy thoughts. Behavior is I need to go home at a reasonable time. Thought is I don't need to push myself any harder. I work hard already. So again we are focusing on both behavior and thought because they go hand in hand. And again this kind of sheet is something which helps you evaluate yourself, again to look at yourself. The matter is not that you want to get rid of it. The central issue is looking at it, because when you look at it, your identity shifts. You are not the for example, you are flowing in a river. So you are, let's say, swimming, but there is a river, you're just flowing with it and you are in the river. That is one situation. But another situation is you are standing outside of the river and you are looking at the river getting flown in front of your eyes. So you are not the river, you are just an observer of it. So that's what these worksheets do for you. They help you create a distance and look at things from a distance, which is better enough for your understanding and insight into your behavior. So do not be in hurry about curing or making things better, because again we are born with a mind, and mind is full of beliefs, judgments, and we are in a society, we have a lot of things condensed in our minds. So it cannot be mind cannot be totally perfect in that manner that everything it looks at it uh, you know takes it in a healthy manner. So again, we have to drop the perfectionistic attitude of curing the perfectionism, more like looking at the perfectionism. That is something that helps you. uh, Even the looking is somewhat, it does a lot of work for you, right? So all right, so that brings us towards the end. We discussed lots of things, how perfectionism manifests in different domains of your life, what are the signs of it, how it relates with different disorders, and finally, how to manage it. And we saw a few worksheets that you can use in order to get more insight into it. And I hope that you guys imply these worksheets into your daily life, especially for those who have responded in the chat box in the beginning, when those images were making them too much uncomfortable. So just do it for yourself. Do not try to, be better through it. Just make a practice to look at yourself. You look at yourself in the mirror every day, because, but that is just the physical body. So just make it like a practice to look into the psychological mirror through worksheets and insight. Right. So, is there any doubt before? So, we are wrapping up. Anything you would like to share, or share your experience, or ask about anything? Someone says, could you please show the last slide once again? Yes. So, yeah, this is a worksheet where, you put the trigger, or the situation that is in the present time, and how you can modify that with healthy behavior, and how you can modify that with healthy thoughts, and just do the entry and close the diary. Do not do anything much, because just looking at it is the good first step, and we should not rush into uh, going complex about the self work. Shri Lakshmi says, I missed the beginning. Could you show that activity again? Which, this activity, Shri Lakshmi? Also, guys, if you have any doubts, please stay back. Otherwise, you can feel free to drop out, and have a great weekend.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yes, yes.
Those images you told, just can you go through it?
This
First,
one, right?
no, no, no. At first, some activity was there. I think within around 15 minutes. I was not there.
Okay, in the beginning, 15
So,
minutes you
some
were not.
something you.
Uh, your voice is not audible. So you were saying that you were not there in the first 15 minutes. You want me to show those slides?
Yes, that's pictures you told that picture. Can you go through it?
I'm so sorry. Your voice is breaking too much for me. Can you just type it in the chat box if possible? Okay, okay. So you were not for that activity. Sure, sure. I'll show that. Uh, just give me a second. Yeah, so these were the images, and so this activity was basically you have to rate how discomfort do you feel. If you feel very discomforting, then it's a spectrum. 10 is the maximum discomfort, 1 is the maximum comfort, 5 is the middle, and the spectrum goes like that. So this was an assessment activity, just to get an idea for yourself how much uncomfortable you get when you see these images. So people were fine till here, it was normal, but this was the part that made most people uncomfortable, and this also, this as well. So again, it shows the lens that you are seeing these pictures from. If you have too much of a perfectionist tendencies, you might feel very uncomfortable seeing these images and this bun which is not cut into half. And yeah, right. So yeah, that was the image activity that I was talking about. Is that clear to you?
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Okay. Oh, I'm so sorry. The PPT was unshared. Okay. So anyway, we have come towards the end. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining the session. And it got extended a little bit, but I hope you have had a good session. Feedback form will be shared in the group. Also, you'll get certificates if you fill that form. So yeah, thank you so much for joining and responding. I had a great session with you guys. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much. We'll end here.